Hi, my name is James Kimber. I'm a physician assistant and founder of PA Mentor Online, bringing you the best tips and tools you'll need to get into a PA program. On this channel, we do strategy videos for pre-PA students who are thinking about becoming a PA or currently in the application process, as well as interviews with students who used our services and successfully got into a PA program. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on any of the interviews, as it might be one of the programs that you're thinking about applying to. Or if you have specific questions about one of the interviews we've done or just questions in general, don't forget to leave them down below in the comment section. Thank you.
Welcome to Physician Assistant Mentor Online.
Welcome back. As you can tell, I got another shirt. This time from California State University at Monterey Bay's Physician Assistant Program. We're talking today to Katie, who came to us to work on her personal statement and mock interviews. This was Katie's third time applying, but after we were able to help her, she actually got into a couple of programs. So we'll go ahead and let Katie tell the rest of her story, and thanks for watching.
Well, welcome back. Today we have another student we're interviewing for their experience as far as PA school. If you could tell us your name and which PA program you're attending.
Absolutely. My name is Katie Cobb, and I'm currently attending California State University, Monterey Bay.
Okay, well, welcome. Good to have you again. We did do this interview before, but unfortunately we had some problems with the audio, so we're going to shoot it again the second time, and I'm sure your answers will be just as good as they were the first time. So, thank you for doing this again.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Okay, so tell us your story. How did you first get involved or interested in the medical field?
I first got involved with when my grandmother was in a pretty bad car accident. Fortunately, she passed away from it, but had such a great ICU team and trauma, and with their medical efforts, it really gave us an extra week and a half with her. So just spending those days in the ICU kind of opened my eyes to medical field. So I just kind of went from there.
Okay, what about the physician assistant career? How did you first learn about that?
I was one of the late bloomers. While I was at Virginia Tech finishing my undergrad, it was my last semester senior year, and I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I ended up going to urgent care for sinus for like the fifth time, and I met a PA there. And within our first 5-minute interaction, he was counting how many times I was touching my face. And he kind of kept squirting hand sanitizer in my hand, and he was just very blunt. And I just thought, God, what kind of doctor is this? I noticed PA behind his name. So then I just kind of did my research there, and I went, oh, okay, like this guy has an interesting career. So then I just kind of took off. I wish I would have had that interaction way earlier in my undergrad, but it worked out at the end.
So tell us a little bit more about your undergrad experience. You mentioned in college, but where did you go for your undergrad?
So I first started at Cal State Northridge, and then I transferred to Virginia Tech, and I graduated with a BS in biological sciences.
Okay. And I'm assuming because of your degree, it probably offered you, or you were able to fulfill all the prerequisites required by PA programs?
For the most part, weirdly enough, most bio degrees didn't require, at least in Virginia Tech, I don't know about Cal State Northridge, but it didn't require anatomy and physiology. So that I had to go take, I actually went back to Cal State Northridge just for the summer and took that course. So there's a couple, like sociology, an English course, because of course graduate programs don't accept your AP scores, but undergraduates love it when you take AP, so it's a nice double dip there. So just certain little things here and there I had to retake.
Were there any courses in particular that you had more difficulty with than others?
Ooh, OChem always kicked my butt for sure. I really enjoyed it, but that year I took organic chemistry, cell molecular bio, and I naively thought zoology was going to be a bird class, and it wasn't. And they had exams on the exact same day back to back. So that was a difficult semester, the first time I ever scored below a 3.0.
Okay. What about the GRE? Did you have to take the GRE?
Yes, I took the GRE. I only had to take it once.
And what did you use, if anything, to prepare for it?
There's a lot of GRE prep books that are really, really useful. Once I finished it, I handed off to other students. But it also helped that I was a tutor for SAT prep, and I noticed that the GRE had kind of a similar pattern to it. So that kind of helped.
Okay. Well, looking back now that you're already a student, what would you say your strengths were going into applying?
I think at first my strength was definitely the GPA, because I was more on the competitive side. But then as the years were going and as I was applying, the competitiveness definitely took a jump. So then after that, I think it was definitely my volunteer experience through American Red Cross, through their hurricane relief, and that I was working as a nurse assistant in a sepsis unit, which was kind of unique.
And how many times did you apply?
It took me 4 times to get in.
Okay, so obviously you did have some experience from previous applications, knowing what was expected. And
Yes, yes.
okay, what kind of healthcare experience did you have going into PA's the application process?
So I immediately went for certified nursing assistant because that took about 5-6 weeks to get certified, and I knew I wanted to get hours quick. So I started off at a nursing home for about 4 months, and then I transferred to acute care setting at a hospital in Fountain Valley. And I worked as a float pool, so I would just get thrown wherever they needed me, which was great for me because I just got to see all aspects of medicine. And then I started to finish it off at St. Jude Medical Center in the sepsis unit.
How many programs did you apply to this last cycle?
This last cycle, I applied to 7, I believe.
Okay. And what factor did you use to determine which programs you wanted to apply to?
I think at the beginning, I was becoming a little more picky about the mission statement. Cost was a huge factor. But then towards like the 3rd and 4th application, it became, just anybody that would accept, just because the years I was applying was so competitive. But it came down to narrowing down to which program, once I got accepted to a couple, it just came down to what was best for my family and, keeping that support there.
Okay. And CASPA, tell us about your CASPA experience.
CASPA was definitely a learning curve for me. I did not take advantage of, the resources my undergraduate college provided for healthcare professional students. So I definitely the first year I'm going to open it and see what happens. But, and I did get one interview, but only one. So with CASPA, I think it's really important to try to get your recommendation letters in as soon as possible, because I think students are going to learn quickly that, whether it's physicians, PAs, NPs, your boss, it's going to be a journey to get them to submit it. So as much time notice as you can give them, definitely do that. And it's try to submit as early in the cycle as you can. That was I think one of my biggest pushes to get in, was not waiting to the last minute to submit, not even waiting halfway through the application cycle. Just as soon as that opened up, try to get it in as early as you can.
Right, okay. Out of the 7 programs that you did submit to, how many interviews did you receive?
I received, it was either 4 or 5 interviews, and I only did 2.
And then how did you feel about the interviews? I mean, you've been through this process, but everybody they work so hard submitting everything, obtaining the hours, and they get to the interview, and some people, they just kind of freeze up. So
I think that's when your program came to save me, is I could get at least 1 interview each application cycle, but I could just never quite seal the deal, so to speak. So when I met with, I want to say his name was Daniel, it's been a while. He really helped me just relax and keep the questions focused. And it just that little bit of preparedness, I think, really set me apart from everybody else. And I made that mistake the first year I got my first interview. I just thought, oh, I'm going to like just talk my way into this. I'm so personal. I was a bartender. I was a nurse assistant. I could, I could get in anywhere, and they could see right through that I did not prepare for any questions. Okay. Yes. And I think what's nice too is the newer programs. I'm not sure about the older programs, but the newer programs are doing more of kind of like a relaxed, intimate interview where it's like sitting down and having a cup of coffee at Starbucks. I think I had a question. It was like, how do you deal with difficult communication styles? And I related it to I have a twin sister, and she's engaged to someone who's completely deaf. And so I talked about an instance where he got really sick and it was just me and him, and how am I going to communicate, because I knew very little American Sign Language. And so I think my then professor, I didn't know what her position was yet. She just loved that she could hear the struggle. And I helped last year with the applicants who were interviewing, and kind of prep talk them, and just say imagine you're at Starbucks, cup of coffee. I said, it's almost 12. They're probably thinking how hungry they are and what's for lunch, and try to give that normalcy. I was like, just so they're just as human. And it was totally relaxed. I know Chapman University had that kind of aspect of interviewing, which I really enjoyed. So did the the school in Whittier, I forget the name, and then Cal State Monterey Bay. So I appreciated that it was just having a conversation. Whereas I know some other programs, it's more like a panel, and it's question, and that can be a little intimidating.
So obviously you were accepted and you began school. So tell us about the beginning of school, like your first year. What was that like?
I think I said this before, but they always say you can never prepare for PA school. And, don't try to study as much as you can before you start, because there's no saving you. You're just going to have to learn how to study under, extreme stress. And it was exciting because it's something that you're passionate about, and where undergrad, you're kind of just taking courses that you're forced to do to graduate. Whereas when you do PA school and your career, it's exciting stuff. So, even though you're kind of on the brink of like emotional breakdown, it's just as exciting to learn new skills. And you really rely on your PA cohort. And that's been the most rewarding as well. It's just you gain such like a big family through it all.
Okay. And where are you now? Like, what point are you in the program? You're doing your clinicals?
Yes, I am a second-year PA student in clinical rotations. Given the whole COVID thing right now, that's kind of on hold. So in the meantime, I'm helping design and start an alternative care site down at Marina for the Tri-County area. So one of our professors, Mike Jorgensen, is leading that in collaboration with Joby Aviation, which is actually where my husband works. So that's been kind of exciting to mix both our careers, which I never thought would. So I think we're starting to get that all supplied and build hospital beds on Wednesday. So that's been pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as we talked about this before, so this is the point. A lot of people are really looking forward to this. Is what advice do you have for those who are thinking about becoming a PA or currently in the application process? I mean, CASPA did just open a few days ago, and what advice do you have for those people?
Like I said earlier, apply as early as you can in the application where you're pretty well-rounded and strong. If you're really just waiting on that one little cherry on top, you really have to weigh benefit versus risk. Is it worth waiting? You have to think of the programs. Are they rolling admissions, or are they, until the whole thing closes, then looks at everybody. So that, that's kind of an individual basis, which can be hard when you're applying to multiple programs with different requirements. I think grit shows goes a long way with the application process. If they're looking at someone who maybe was a communications major and then only took prereqs one class at a time, that doesn't show very, very much then, versus if you're, maybe something more difficult, undergraduate science degree. And even though you didn't get the highest scores, it just shows that you kept going. And, even if you applied 3 times, that also shows grit. So, it just shows, do you really want it? So don't get discouraged if you don't get in the first time.
What about tips writing your personal statement?
Ooh, personal statement. That is always the hardest part of it, I think, about applying, where you just keep rewriting. What do they want? Do they want this detailed, elaborate, descriptive, story, or do they want just the cookie cutter, I want to help people? To tell your own story. And it doesn't always have to be a sob story. I, could not stand when I would read, the so-and-so had cancer, or I lost this or that. I mean, they're going to see that 100 times, with each application. So you just don't try to write what you think they want to hear. Just tell your story.
Exactly. That's what we try to tell people. And then preparing for the interview.
For me, it really helped with your program, working with Daniel, just to have that. Even though I think we're in a Greek restaurant or something, and we just like sat next to each other across the table, and he's like, all right, first question, why do you want to be PA? And you could just hear the like choking and like and right after that he's like, they're going to ask you that question. You can't, you have to have an answer. So I think preparing for the interview question is going to be so vital. Don't just think that you can go in and talk your way through. Like you do want to have some preparedness, but you're not reciting answers as well. You're just having the conversation, and they just want to know, do you know what a PA is? What is their role? Where do you see yourself fitting? And why do you want that program? And I think what kind of relaxed me too is I'm, as the applicant, interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing me, and having that little bit of power calmed me down a lot. Because I think at that point I knew I already had multiple interviews. So I knew I was like, all right, like I don't have to put all my eggs in one basket. And that calmed me down a lot.
Good. How much longer in the program do you have?
Oh, we're supposed to graduate May 2021. Given COVID, I don't know if that graduation date will be pushed back. They're trying to throw some Hail Marys, as I call it, to get us still on track. But as of now, it's still May 2021.
Do you recommend this program to other people that are looking at schools?
I do. Their mission statement, they live and breathe that, helping the underserved and building competent, caring healthcare providers. We're in an area where there's at least 177 job openings for PAs. So there's really no question whether or not you're going to get a job when you graduate, especially if you want to live in Santa Cruz area, Monterey, Marina, Hollister, Salinas. So that was really great to kind of get your foot in the door. And everybody knows in this area the new PA program. But yeah, our first year we did a lot of volunteer. It didn't really stop there after you think, oh, okay, I'm done with the application, I don't have to volunteer anymore. And you really do get out into your community and do like a nice needs assessment, and you understand like the food deserts that migrant farmers have to deal with, and how that plays in with diabetes and hypertension, and how can we as healthcare providers be understanding that it's not that everyone's non-compliant, it's just lack of access. So it just really reframes your mindset. So I've really enjoyed this program. We have a great staff. We have the director who's from USC. We have Dr. Berry, who's from Stanford, Professor Siegel, who's also from Stanford. We have Dr. Sadler, who started Yale University's program, who is one of the founders. And he is so involved with his students. He loves taking you to Toastmaster. That's kind of his thing, to teach us how to be able to speak, to make sure that we can be in front of a crowd or even just 6 people and be comfortable. And he's just really involved. So it's been a great program so far.
Sounds like it. I mean, a lot of talent.
Yeah. So I think that really settled my nerves, because I know there's so many new programs that are coming out, and a lot of applicants get nervous when they're on accredited provisional, and that means that you have to graduate. Even if they lose accreditation, you still have to finish, and you can still sit for your boards, or excuse me, for the pants. So that, that didn't bother me as much. And then to know how much experience was behind this is fantastic. And we're one out of 11 programs that use the butterfly ultrasound. So, we know how to do eFast and use all that. So it's a great tool.
Well, again, I want to thank you for doing the interview for the second time. Appreciate your time. I know you're busy, but I wish you all the best. I know you're going to be a great PA. So again, thanks for doing the interview.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Happy to help.